Obviously, we're now in the summer phase at the conclusion of this season. We'll look back finally on this season, I think, in terms of knowing we maximized that team and saw a lot of great things. Obviously, coming within one game of Omaha was something that I think very few people predicted when the season started. Setting a school record for draft picks, I think, is something very few people saw coming. So I just think all in all, it was a very successful season and one we want to build on now.
Marco, you did get some good news out of the draft when an Olsen and a Hopkins and a Cullen, those guys didn't get picked, so they'll be back. Is that what you look at as the foundation of next year's team, those guys that have been here?
Yeah, the veterans, I think you always start, when you look at every team, you always start with the veterans and who's coming back, who will help be able to carry that baton forward to show and be examples for the new group. So I think that's a pretty good group that you named that we'll start with that.
Logan and Carmen, what do they need to work on this summer? I assume you pretty much counting on them to probably be starters next year. What do they need to do to take that next step?
I think strength and conditioning will be a big part of that. Both of them can get much stronger, and as players get bigger and stronger, they get better. So to me, I think as they put on good weight, become stronger athletes, I think you'll see that benefits them in a variety of ways. I think it'll help their fastball, it will help their command, it'll help the breaking balls. I think everything. I just think you'll see guys next year that are bigger and stronger, and because of that, they're better.
Your left here, Colin.
This was the first recruiting class that you had a full hand in kind of bringing guys in. Just what stands out about the guys that are coming in now are the ones that are on campus, and how do you feel like they're going to be able to help the team?
Yeah, recruiting in baseball is still very unique. A lot of it is still done 2 and 3 years ahead of time. So a lot of the guys coming in are still players that we will be inheriting from the previous staff. We were able to add some, mostly JUCO guys. We had a couple high school guys along the way. But at the end of the day, it's just a matter of you want your new players to come in and blend with the returning players. And so I think our recruiting classes, as we continue to move forward into the future, and the 20 class, the 21 class will be really where we start to have a full handprint, thumbprint on the impact of that class. I think you're just going to see a lot of the same things you saw with our team as we started to evolve. We want athletic players, we want speed, we want power, we want pitchers that have good stuff but also have good command. That's what we'll continue to try to fill this program with.
You obviously inherited your first team here that was very junior and senior heavy, so you knew that there was going to be some turnover going into year 2. How did you approach that? How quickly did you take a grasp on that? Talk about going the junior college route. How much did that play a factor in knowing that, year 2 could be great because of the experience, but year 1 could be great with the experience. Year 2 will be a whole lot different.
Yeah, next year's roster will be significantly different than this last year. And so when you take over a program, you always have short-term and long-term vision. So the short-term vision, obviously, this year was to try to maximize the club that we had. But at the same time, we also tried to take a longer-term vision of what will 2019 look like, what will 2020 look like, what will 2021 be as we get there. So you always try to combine the short-term and the long-term. I think we maximized the short-term and what this team was capable of, and along the way, we tried to pick up some pieces that would make next year and into the future better as well.
Marco Lawson and Rich Chapman were each drafted, but they've each said that they're coming back. First, are they healthy, and two, what steps do they need to take to be as good as they were this year?
They're both guys that are nursing some things health-wise that I think we just have to continue to evaluate. So obviously, we hope both of them will be able to help us next year. As they get better, once again, I think just they need to continue to hone their craft. Both of them have really good stuff, but need to make sure that consistency of command of their breaking balls continues to improve. When they do that, and when they're at the top of their game, they're both really, really good. They just need to be there more often.
When you're
As go to the major leagues, what's your main piece of advice you give them as they take the next step?
I tell them they have to have an approach to be overachievers. Pro ball is a jungle, and so when you get there, you have to make sure that organization knows that you're very serious about what you're doing. You need to be the first guy there. You need to be the last guy to leave. You need to always be trying to learn. It's very competitive out there, so I try to get the message to our guys that do everything you can to overachieve, because they all have talent, but everybody that they're joining in those organizations has a lot of talent as well. So to me, I try to pass along that you need to be very professional. You need to understand it's now a job, and you will be evaluated daily. So everything they do needs to be done at the highest level.
You're right, Jeff.
Mark, what is TJ's plan for this summer, and just, I guess, how important is he to next year?
Yeah, TJ is going to spend a lot of time with Brainerd, our trainer, and also with Billy in our weight room. So to him, the biggest thing is, I think his game had evolved to a point where he was becoming a very good baseball player. Now we just need to make sure that he's spending a ton of time with the athletic trainers and with our strength trainers to give him his best chance for health moving forward.
Dr. Dave.
Mark, what's your opinion on junior college players as recruits? I mean, do you like them? Would you prefer to stay away from them? Or what do those guys bring to a baseball team?
Yeah, to me, the biggest difference between a junior college recruit and a high school recruit is they're 2 years outside of high school. So that's 2 years of summer ball, 2 years of strength training, 2 more years of innings pitched or at bats. You're just getting an older, more veteran player. At the end of the day, you just want good players. And, you can be young and be really good, and you can be a junior college player and be really good. You just have to pick the right players from a talent standpoint, but also from a makeup standpoint. But I would say a junior college player that's talented enough, that has a little bit more experience, it may give him a little bit of an edge in terms of being able to help a program like this right away.
Side of that is that they could leave after just 1 year, but do you feel that's a good risk to take when you recruit a JUCO guy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Eddie Demiris is an example this year. He was a JUCO guy, came in for 1 year and was drafted by the Reds and moved on, but he helped us win a lot of games this year. So you want to have a balance. You don't want too much of one or the other. It's like everything else. You need a good blend of high school and junior college players. And some years you'll take more junior college players because you think the next year's team could be extremely young, so you need a little bit of veteran presence. So every year is a little bit different. That's why you need to have a blueprint and a depth chart for not only the current year, but the following 3 years. We go as far out as 3 years just to make sure we have a look at what does that team look like and what will it potentially need.
Far left here.
Coach, when you talk about personnel and flexibility, just curious what your vision is preference-wise for Noah and Jake as far as who fits where, infield versus
Right.
outfield, and so forth.
Yeah, really good question. I mean, those two guys will almost work off each other. They'll both be looked at in the infield and the outfield next year. They may get heavy infield work all fall just to get a feel for how they're developing. And it may be a case of one guy may play in the infield and one guy may play in the outfield, and it'll be an open competition. And I think both of them have the ability to play in the infield, and both can be very good outfielders as well. So that gives us some flexibility, and now it's just a matter of how do those pieces best fit together.
Mark, what's Chris Cullen next year? Does he remain a catcher, or is he a first baseman, or what's your plan for him?
Yeah, the plan for him is once again, a lot of where Chris will play, because he is flexible position-wise, will have to do with the pieces around him. Who's playing first? Who's playing third? How are the catchers doing that we brought in? The great thing about him is he's able and he is willing to play any of those 3 spots. So you could see him at third, first, or behind the plate. And the big thing with Chris is Chris didn't have the year this year that he wanted, but our message to him is that he can still have a great senior year. I think Madison Stokes is a great example for him, and really Hunter Taylor is too. Guys that had subpar junior years were disappointed, but used it as motivation, made some adjustments, and had tremendous senior years and were drafted. So to me, that's what we want to happen with Chris, and I think he's going to work really hard to try to make that happen.
Back left with Greg.
Coach, there were a lot of special moments on the way. You mentioned some of the overall successes you've had, but there was the comeback against LSU, the 5 series wins, the walk-off against Mizzou. Now that you've had some time to take a step back, are there moments that stand out to you in year number 1 here?
There were a ton of moments, and it's hard to point out to just one. But like you said, I think the comeback wins are, to me, the most impactful because I think it shows to our fan base that this team really had a lot of fight. So when you come back from down 6-0 and you win a game, to me that sends a very strong message and of what our program is and what we want the culture to be. So I would say I look back at those moments as probably the fondest, just because not only did you get big victories and big wins, and we won a lot of series this year after they had, I think the number had gotten up to 10 consecutive SEC series losses going back to last year. So to win some of those series in the manner that we did, to me, that's what I'll look back on and say that was really important for us.
Mark, following up on that, maybe record and performance on the field aside, was the first year here at South Carolina everything you expected it to be as the head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I would love it, and I did. I mean, I love everything about it. I love the fan passion and support. I love, having to answer to the media every day and you guys I'm serious, holding us accountable for the moves we make. I think that's what the big time's all about. And South Carolina baseball is big time. That's what I thought it would be coming in. And there's no doubt about it. That's what it is. So I love it. I love being here. I'm proud to be here. And myself and our staff will continue to work extremely hard to make this a program that everybody can be proud of.
Mark, I believe LT was the only player who could return that hasn't signed yet. Has he given you any indication about which way he's leaning?
Yeah, he's going to sign. It's just a matter of time, but he will sign. He's worked so hard, and he had such a great impact for us. And I think him moving to shortstop and having a much better offensive year than he ever has was one of our keys this year. So he's prepared. It's been a dream of his since he was a little kid to be a pro baseball player. He helped us get to a super regional. He was one of our key players, and he's going into pro ball with our full support.
And I think you had 6 signees or recruits get drafted. 3 of them have already signed.
Right. It's actually up to 7. It's actually up to 7.
But the other 3, have they given you any indication about what they'll do?
Yeah, 3 have signed so far, and as of today, we will have 4 coming in that will join us next year that were drafted.
Any more questions?
Coach, as the College World Series continues on and Arkansas now just 1 win away from a championship, do you think about the series anymore, or think if you get past them, or do you play it out? And are you of the belief that if you're going to lose to anybody, you lose to the champs, or is just losing the worst across the board?
Well, losing is not enjoyable no matter who it's against. But, watching them on TV, I think we have a unique appreciation for what they really are. We played them 7 times, 6 times in their ballpark in front of their crowd in that stadium. So we have a great appreciation for what they are. To me, it was great, though, because that shows what it does take to be one of the best teams. And they win tonight. They're the best team in America. So we gave them half their home losses. So I think that shows that we were pretty darn good too. So a lot of times this thing is about matchups. Who do you match up against? Do you get a favorable matchup, or do you not get a favorable matchup? And we ran into a pretty good buzzsaw there in Arkansas. So I look back and we're disappointed we lost that game 3. But I think when you see how good they really are, it shows how far we came, because we went toe to toe with them.
On your schedule, I know you inherited a bunch of stuff. Have you been able to add anything for this coming season of your own choice in terms of schools? Will you still go to Charlotte to play North Carolina? And anything further on that neutral site game for the Clemson series?
North Carolina and Charlotte will remain consistent. We have not added anything new in terms of, we're status quo on the schedule that's been there for the last couple years in terms of how it's been planned out already. And I think they're still trying to figure out the rotation for the Clemson series. Your guess is as good as mine at this point. I still think there's some cities in play. I don't know exactly when they're going to make that official announcement, but I think we're getting closer.
Anything else, Coach? Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.